All right, Jordan, if you want to go ahead and start recording.
Yeah, started.
All right, good evening, everybody. You want to go ahead and take your seats out here in Clintwood? We'll get started. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Jetty Baker Center here in Clintwood. I'd also like to extend a welcome to those watching over the internet via WebEx. Welcome to the third listening session for Reenergize Southwest. My name is Michael Skiffington. I am the Director of Policy and Planning for the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. And very appreciative for all of you coming out to be with us this evening as we talk about a very important topic. So over the course of the next couple hours, this is what you can expect to hear. We will be talking about the legislation that brought us here tonight and the impetus for that legislation and the work group that was created by that legislation. You'll be hearing, in addition to presentations from me, you'll be hearing presentations from Vicki Ratliff from Mountain Empire Community College, Adam Wells from Appalachian Voices, and participating virtually will be Dr. Michael Karmas from Virginia Tech. And upon conclusion of those presentations, we will be receiving public comment. Before we go any further, perhaps the most important announcement of the evening: snacks, popcorn, and sodas are available for sale in the lobby. The Jetty Baker Center asked me to remind you of that, and since they have been such wonderful hosts this afternoon and evening, we felt it was the least we could do. So please, please support them if you can. Next slide, please. So the background for our story, begins with a report from the Joint Legislative Audit and Review Commission, which is the investigative arm of the General Assembly. They conducted an audit in September of 2020, which I'll talk more about in just a second. Resulting from that audit were two pieces of legislation from this past General Assembly session: HB 1899 and Senate Bill 1252. That we will also talk about, and we were also going to talk about with, the ongoing realignment at the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. And if we could go to the next slide, please. So the JLARC report was released in September of 2020, and they were looking at a wide range of economic incentives and tax credits across the Code of Virginia. And the report is linked here, and all the presentations that you will see tonight will be available on our website within a couple of days after this meeting, and so you can access that report if you are so inclined. Amongst those incentives and tax credits the General Assembly took a look at were two tax credits relating to the production of coal and the employment of coal miners, and JLR found that those incentives were producing economic losses for the Commonwealth and were no longer relevant. And JLARC also found that the existing economic development incentives and organizations in Southwest Virginia should be comprehensively evaluated. And on the next slide, you'll see that as the result of that report, as I mentioned earlier, there were two pieces of legislation introduced by Delegate Sally Hudson from Charlottesville and Senator Jeremy Pike from Prince William County introduced legislation to repeal those tax credits. And as the legislation made its way through the committee process, the legislation was amended to create a work group to be led by DMME. That legislation did pass both houses, the House of Delegates and the State Senate, and that legislation was signed by Governor Northam and took effect on July 1 of this year. Next slide, please. So I mentioned that the legislation created a work group that we at DMME are leading, and the stakeholders listed as part of that work group are the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, VECEDA, the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority, or VEDP, the Virginia Employment Commission, VEC, the Southwest Virginia Workforce Development Board, which doesn't have quite so neat of an acronym, and finally, the Virginia Council on Environmental Justice. Next slide, please. So what is the work group tasked with doing? We are tasked with putting together recommendations for the General Assembly to consider as to how the Commonwealth can provide economic transition support in the coalfield region, with a particular focus on 6 areas. And those 6 areas are workforce redevelopment, economic diversification, reclamation of coal-impacted lands and brownfields, community revitalization, clean energy development, and infrastructure improvements. So a pretty wide-ranging and far-reaching list. On the next slide, you will see the when for us, when we have to have our work done. And it's a pretty aggressive timeline of an interim report of September 1 and a final report of December 1. And when you factor in the time that we have to allow the governor's office to review our work, those timelines become even more compressed. Next slide, please. So the where and the how of how we're going to do our work. This is the 3rd of 3 public listening sessions we've held across the coal fields. The first one was held about a month ago in Big Stone Gap at Mountain Empire Community College. Second listening session was held just 2 nights ago on the 6th at Richlands High School in Richlands. And obviously this is the 3rd one here tonight. We have accepted public comment in all 3 of those listening sessions in person. But there are also additional ways that we are receiving public comment, and we are encouraging everyone who's interested to submit comments to us in whichever way is most convenient to them. We've set up an email account at DMME. It's the Reenergize SWVA at dmme.virginia.gov. The chat feature in WebEx, we're live streaming these meetings and we're recording them and capturing all of the chats, the comments that are received through the chat feature. We've created a town forum on the Virginia Regulatory Town Hall, and we're also accepting comments via the US mail at our Big Stone Gap office. So I mentioned earlier that the Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy is currently undergoing a realignment, and the story of that goes really all the way back to 1990. That is the date at which coal production peaked in the Commonwealth and has dropped by 70% since then. So as a result of the legislation passed in the 2020 session, the Virginia Clean Economy Act, nearly all coal plants in the Commonwealth are required to close by 2025. And as a result of these factors and many others, DMME is realigning its resources to pivot towards renewable energy and the associated economic development opportunities associated with renewable energy. And just one small example of that, as a result of realignment, we're going to be putting boots on the ground in our Big Stone Gap office to focus more exclusively on renewable energy and the opportunities associated with it. Next slide, please. Effective October 1, our name is changing. We will become the Department of Energy as the result of legislation that passed in 2021. Worker safety and environmental protection will still remain very important priorities for us on the regulatory side of the shop. If you've attended either of the previous listening sessions, you've heard that metallurgical coal, which is used to make steel, will remain a significant impact in the years to come. And so therefore, we will continue to regulate it, both for worker safety and environmental protection and reclamation. In addition to that, the DMME is still going to continue to build on its economic development successes, which we'll talk a little bit more about on the next slide. We've long been a leader in these efforts. We've placed over 200 businesses on mine land through our AML program. We have awarded nearly $48 million in water supply projects, creating 1,400 jobs. And through our work with the federal government, what was the AML pilot program, now the AMLR program, which is the Abandoned Mineland Economic Revitalization Program, we've received $40 million to use for economic development efforts on abandoned mine land across the coal fields. Next slide, please. I should know this by now, but my memory is fading as I get older. Additionally, what we are doing is creating an Office of Innovative Reclamation, which will work with landowners and mine operators to foster creative uses for post-mine land use to include, but not be limited to, renewable energy opportunities. We're also continuing to foster innovative public-private partnerships with groups such as Invest Southwest Virginia. And just a sampling of the projects we are working very closely with them on include Project Oasis, which uses mine water from underground mine pools to cool data centers, which will make the Southwest Virginia region much more attractive for data center operators, as cooling and heating and cooling costs are one of their primary expenses. And Project Thoroughbred, which grows grains for the craft beverage industry. Those are just a sampling of the economic development initiatives currently underway at DMME. And that is my presentation, and now we will turn it over to our very special guests who will talk to you about things such as workforce development opportunities in Southwest Virginia, renewable energy in brownfields, and a very interesting critical minerals project. Our first speaker tonight is Vicki Ratliff from Mountain Empire Community College. She is the Vice President of Academic Affairs and Workforce Solutions and has been with the college since 2003. And we are thrilled that she's here with us tonight. Please welcome Vicki Ratliff. Thank you so much.
Good evening. All right. It's nice to be here this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. The topic that I've been tasked with tonight is to talk about our workforce situation in Southwest Virginia, not just from a community college aspect position, but where we are as a whole. So I took a look at the Go Virginia Region 1 area, and I want to talk to you about where we are and what we're going to be faced with over the next few years. Jordan? As most of you know, Mountain Empire Community College is located in Big Stone Gap, Virginia, but we serve the areas of Lee, Wise, Scott, and Dickinson County, at least a portion of Dickinson County, and the city of Norton. We also have sister colleges that serve throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia, but we work very closely with Southwest Virginia Community College and Virginia Highlands to serve the Go Virginia Region 1. Okay, Jordan? Just a little bit about Mountain Empire Community College. These are some fast facts that might give you just an idea of the population that we have on campus and in our online classes. We serve, or we offer about 80 academic programs, in addition to a wealth of non-credit or workforce training programs as well. We have an annualized headcount of an average of 3,100 students on the credit side, which means that they are seeking a degree or certificate. And then we also serve an average of about 2,100 non-credit students, or those that are there to simply get a workforce credential. So in all, we touch about 5,200 people in the course of a year. One of the things that we're proud of as part of the demographics of the college is that those that attend college in our service region, of those that attend college, 65% of them choose to come to Mountain Empire Community College, which is something to be proud of, I think. One of the reasons for that, though, is that we do annually disperse over $7 million in financial aid and scholarships. Another little piece of information that's interesting is that 96% of those students who are program placed, or those that are seeking a degree or certificate, do receive some sort of financial aid. And as I'll talk about toward the end of the program, there are very few reasons why a student would not have full financial aid moving forward, because we've been blessed with quite a bit of money going into this next year. We have 69% of our students are under 25. That's a little bit different than what we have had in the past, because prior to the numbers of students that we're serving in dual enrollment, most of our students' average age was about 28 to 29, because we do have quite a few students who come back to us after having been out of high school for quite a while. it is interesting, and especially some of our male students kind of appreciate this. 61% of our students are female, and we're proud that a lot of those are in the non-traditional roles. So it's we joke with our students a lot that some of our best welders and those that are in the non-traditional fields are female and are very detail oriented, so they do a great job. Another interesting fact about our students is that 58% of them attend classes part-time. The reason for that, for the most part, is that the majority of them do work. There are other reasons, of course, but we are serving a lot of students who have extra responsibility beyond going to school. Our student to faculty ratio is about 24-1. Depending on the program, those that are in the more hands-on fields would see that number drop to even as low as 8-1, depending on the particular program. And the highest, another bragging right, I guess, that we would like folks to know is that 86% of our students who start with us and transfer on to a four-year school finish on time, meaning that they finish within 4 years of starting with us and then going on to the college, onto their four-year school. So it's that's a bragging right, because for the most part, the average is much lower than that. And we are the top in the Virginia Community College system as far as the success of our students going on to a four-year school. So that's something to be proud of. Okay, so what drives us and what do we do to serve those students to make sure that they get a quality education and a relevant education in the region? Jordan, if you'll go to the next one, please. We often look at our numbers, and this is part of what I'm tasked to do tonight, but I wanted to share some of the demographics of not just our service region, but that Go Virginia region, which stretches farther east than the area that we serve. But it's interesting that in that Go Virginia population, there are 376,000 plus individuals. 50%, just over 50% are male. So we're serving a greater portion of female, of course, so we're a little bit different there. But this number is a little alarming. Out of that population of individuals, 21.3% of them are reported to have some sort of disability that keeps them from working. So take that out of the workforce. That's quite a large number. If you look from an economic standpoint, we have a 19.2% poverty rate in the Go Virginia Region 1. 10.3% of them are uninsured. So from a socioeconomic standpoint, that's a little bit alarming. Our median age of the population is 45.3. And we only have a labor market participation rate of 49.1%. So over 50% of those that live in the Go Virginia Region 1 aren't even eligible or aren't in the workforce at this point. And we have a median household income of $40,904. I guess what is really alarming to me is that middle graph. If you'll look at the population, you'll see that it's a continual decline from 10 years ago. And that's not really forecasted to go any higher at this point. So we've got some work to do. Jordan? But now I want you to look at it compared to Virginia. The numbers in red are the whole of Virginia, not just the rest of Virginia, but the whole of Virginia, meaning that it does include the numbers in Southwest. So look at the difference in the disability rate. As a whole for Virginia, the rate is 9.5% compared to our 21.3%. The economic poverty rate, look at that. We are at 19.2%. The Commonwealth as a whole is 10.6%. So we're almost double in this service region. Our uninsured is not much different. It's 8.6 across the state, but it's 10.3 here. Our median age is much higher, about 7 years or so. But then look at the labor market participation rate. If you look at the state of Virginia, it's at 65.2% compared to our less than 50%. So there's a lot more available workers in other parts of the state than there are here. But then again, look at the median household income. There's a $34,000 difference, or nearly that, in how we live as far as our income. And then again, look at the population. The rest of Virginia is definitely growing when we're not. So these are challenges, things that we've got to work on. And we take this seriously at the college because it impacts not only the college, but our region. So we look at these even closer. Jordan, if you'll go to the next one, please. So let's look at the employment trends. This is, of course, construed because of the COVID pandemic, of course. You can see the definite drop in the first quarter of 2020. And then we're rising a little bit as we go forward. You can see, though, that, I don't know if you can see it or not, but the Go Virginia is in the kind of the shaded area, with the blue being Virginia and then the black being the U.S. Interestingly enough, though, our unemployment trend is lower than the state of Virginia and the U.S. Now, what's driving that? That's kind of interesting to me. So Jordan, go to the next slide. When you look in Virginia, in Go Virginia Region 1, you'll see these are the sectors, or these are the areas where our individuals are working. Healthcare and social assistance is our largest sector. That's 15%. Well, there wasn't much of a decline during COVID of the need for those individuals, was there? So that kind of drives why our unemployment rate is a little bit lower. Retail trade is our second highest, and then it goes to manufacturing, and you can see the others. But this is where our employees are currently in the Go Virginia Region 1. It's kind of interesting. What's worrisome, though, is that you'll see that, I don't know if you can tell, but the little orange slither on the top right-hand corner is the mining category compared to all the others, when at one time that mining category was nearly as big as the manufacturing or the retail trade, and probably was bigger if you go even farther back a few years ago. Hey, Jordan. Our unemployment rates, again, this is compared to the state of Virginia as well as the U.S., and Go Virginia 1 is faring better than most. Well, I take that back. We were faring better until I just ran this one this afternoon. In May, we were faring better than Virginia. So now we've gone a little bit higher than the state as a whole, 4.5 to 4.1% in comparison. So it's catching up with us, I guess. Okay, Jordan. Another little interesting aspect of all this data is that there's a subpopulation of individuals that we serve that we call the ALICE population. That's a term that United Way has given to the asset limited, income constrained, but employed population, meaning that these individuals are working, but they still do not have the assets that they need or the income that they need to survive or to live a good life. So you'll see from this population, only 19% of them are earning a full-time salaried wage. And then there's 20% of them that are working full-time, but they work on an hourly basis. So, you know, it's going to change for them. They may or may not be guaranteed that 40 hours per week. Another 7% of them work part-time, but 29% of this population are not in the labor force at all. And then another 19% are actually not in the labor force because they are retired. So, you know, you're looking at the, let's see, how much is that? 29 and 19. But that's a large number of individuals who are considered asset limited and income constrained, but employed. Okay, Jordan. So we look then to the education levels. Is that a driver of what causes these economic numbers to look like this? I didn't include it on this slide, but basically we have a population of about 13% who have a college degree in the Go Virginia, or at least in our service region, compared to a 38% rate for the Commonwealth of Virginia. So we are much, much lower in that category. But based on the job forecasting with the existing jobs that we have today and the population that we have, we're seeing a negative trend on the projected job growth of each of the different categories of education. And you can see that if they have no high school degree or award at all, but some moderate on the job training, those numbers are a little bit are a little better than others. Okay, George. So then we go to where are the jobs? We look for openings by certifications. What do we need to be offering so that individuals can get a job if they're looking for one? And you'll see that everything from driver's license down to licenses for counseling and certified nursing assistants, those are in demand at this point in time. So, of course, all of those different credentials are things that we offer at the college to be able to serve those populations and those needs. But you can see driver's license is a huge one, 273. Now, this chart is based on current advertisements for jobs that are in the Go Virginia region right now. So you can see that there are needs for positions. Okay, Jordan. So then we look at the skills gaps. We go even deeper to see beyond the certifications, what kind of skills do these individuals need? I was really shocked to see this because Spanish is the top deficiency. And you don't think about the need to have Spanish as a second language or, to be fluent in Spanish as a need for this region, but we're seeing now that it is. And that's because a lot of our companies are working internationally now. They're offering their products internationally. They're servicing individuals internationally through call centers and so forth. So it's important. But then I will point out too that there are some kind of discrepancies in this data, and it's not really a discrepancy, but it's a different use of the same term, basically. But it's something that we need to pay attention to when we talk to those who are applying for positions. You'll see that there is a great need for, I can't read my numbers, but I think it's 103 positions out there right now of someone that has Microsoft Excel experience or skills. Okay. Then down at the bottom, you'll see those numbers that are on the right-hand side. Those are skill sets that people have that are on the rolls to trying to get a job that we have excess of. One of those things that is listed there are 40 individuals with Microsoft Office skills. Well, what is Excel? It's a Microsoft Office skill. So we may be telling our students, or others may be telling individuals, to put Microsoft Office on their resumes and on their applications as a skill that they have, but the employer is looking for just Microsoft Excel, and it doesn't link up. So everything's automated, these days with VEC and Indeed and all these other locations. So it's simply an issue of terminology. We've got to rethink the way we are posting positions, as well as informing students and individuals on how they should apply, because the skill sets are there. Data entry is needed. Down here, we've got keyboarding and typing is far available. There's not a lot of difference in keyboarding and typing and data entry, but we're not linking them together. So that's something that we can work on. We can fix that problem. Okay, Jordan. And it's the same thing with the occupation gaps. You'll see that there's a great need here for healthcare practitioners, technical occupations, and so forth. And then, of course, on the bottom of the slide, those are those that are in excess right now. We have a large number of individuals who are able to do sales and related occupations. Well, someone that's in sales, couldn't they also do some of these other things? They may have been a manager at a retail store, and we're looking for managers, but we've not matched them up. So there's hope. Okay, Jordan. And then this one is something that we look at on a regular basis. We look at forecasts by industry cluster. You'll notice, and I know it's hard for you to see because of the distance and the size of the text, but the only one in the positive quadrant on this scale is in healthcare. All the others on the left of this line are in a negative situation in the forecast. So we've got all these individuals who are working in these occupations right now who have extreme capability of doing a lot of work. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Are you talking about the quadrants? Okay, sure. Okay. Can I move away from them? Is it okay? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I have to point. I'm sorry. Okay. So let's look at this, the little circle here in the purple. It says textile. Okay. Right over here. Oh, you're going to be my Vanna? Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I was just going to do the one that's the easiest. Okay, so textile, we lost a lot of our textile industry years ago. Okay, so the way this cluster is, this is called a cluster graph, or it's got another word, but I won't get into all that. But we look at this to determine where, I guess we're forecasting what job opportunities or what industry opportunities are out there for the future based on the world economy, the state economy, and the local economy. So if you look at this, the textiles are in this lower left-hand quadrant, which means that that is the least likely to have growth based on this chart. If you'll see at the top where it says coal and oil, and I can't see what it's at, power, I think. It's also in the kind of to the extreme, because we know that coal and oil opportunities are going down. So there's not a lot of opportunity for us to train in that area, other than maybe some retraining and things of that nature for those that will continue. I can't read some of the others, but if you look over on the far right, that one says health. The need for healthcare workers, according to all forecasts, will grow. Okay, in this service, in the Go Virginia Region 1. So there's a faint line there to the left of the healthcare. That's kind of the break between positive and negative growth. So healthcare is the only one in our situation right now that's forecasted to be positive. All the others are in a negative situation at each of the increments that are listed below. So I can't see what's over there, but there's something that will drop. Let's see if I can read it. Consumer services is going to drop, but it won't be to the extent that textile will. Does that make sense? It's really hard to see on this chart. I can talk with you later if you'd like for me to do that. Or does that help? Okay. Okay, so we're basically looking at the average annual employment forecast rate for each of these sectors. You can kind of divide the economy into different sectors anywhere that you go, so that the retail sales is a sector, healthcare is a sector, coal mining is a sector. There's different sectors, so you're kind of depending on where they are landing in this table is the forecasted rate of growth for employment in that sector. There's probably an easier way to see it. It would be in an Excel table, but you wouldn't be able to read it either on screen. So I was trying to do it graphically. Maybe I should share that information with you. Okay. Are there any other questions on that? Does it make sense at all? Okay. All right, Jordan, let's go on. All right, so this slide is just here because when you look at all this information that I've shown, it kind of feels like we're just climbing uphill on our knees. We have worked, and as a region, I know that as a region, we have worked hard to try to get out of our situation and to grow our industries and to do more. Something that has always driven me, and it's just a personal thing of mine, if you tell me I can't do something, then just sit back because I'm going to try my best to make it happen. Well, I think that's really kind of the motive, or the impetus of this entire region. So Jordan, if you'll go to the next slide. I think that we should say that challenge is accepted. Tell us that we can't grow ourselves out of this situation, and we'll do it because I know we can. So Jordan, let's go. And some of the ways that the college is doing that, and we are trying to make a difference. I think everybody in this room is probably working just as hard as we are to find our niche and try to help in any way that we can. The way that the college has attached this is through our academic programming. We have, of course, Associate of Arts and Sciences degrees. We try to encourage students to transfer to a university to get those bachelor's degrees and beyond. We have Associate of Applied Sciences. Those are our hands-on industrial and business-related programs and health sciences programs that are meant to put individuals to work within 2 years. We also have certificates and career study certificates that are short-term training programs that still lead to an industry job. Then we have workforce non-credit training programs, and those are for individuals who really don't care whether or not they have a degree, but need to have the skill set and the paper to prove that they were able to do a job. And those are called our workforce programs, and that includes things like our power lineman program, CDL, some HVAC training, building and carpentry, masonry, plumbing. There's all kinds of things that we can offer there. One of the ways that we reach those students is through dual enrollment. We have a huge population of our overall population are high school students. This year we graduated the highest number of students while they were still in high school. They were college or high school seniors. They earned their associate degree before they even finished high school. There was something like 80 some of them, which is remarkable. The dual enrollment for us is about 30% of our overall population. So when we can touch them in the high school, we can give them that head start. And we are fortunate enough to have the support, especially here in Dickinson County, of Columbus Phipps Foundation and others that help us to enable those students to take the classes while they're still in high school. We do have the transfer grants and guaranteed admission grants, so you can start at Mountain Empire and go just about anywhere with their associate degree in hand. They typically go in as a junior and are able to finish a lot sooner than they would if they go on to the four-year school. Okay, so let's go on to a little bit more, Jordan. We'll talk about the workforce solutions, and there's more to workforce than just the non-credit training. We do an awful lot of pre-employment training for companies. We do customized training and industry certifications for students for companies that may have individuals who may need to be reskilled or upskilled. We do professional development just as for seminars and leadership classes and things of that nature. We also will do some skill assessments. You may have some welders that you might want to go into a specific type of bend or something that they've not been doing before. So we might need to assess them to see if we can help them grow their skill set. We do work ethics certification so that we test and retest students to make sure that they have those work ethics that are needed to be on the job on time and dressed appropriately, and whatever ethic that you need to be enhanced for those existing employees. And then I'm proud to say that we have our Small Business Development Center, and Becky O'Quinn Purdue is here with us tonight, and she does a remarkable job serving those individuals who are seeking to start their own businesses, and those that are even existing at this point. And Jordan? Another aspect of our business is that we operate the Center for Workforce and Innovation in Appalachia. That is a new facility for us that we've been there about 1.5 years, maybe 2 years now. We've revamped a facility with the help of Wise County. We were able to take over an old elementary school and turn it into a phenomenal facility. And that's where we do all of our non-credit training now with our linemen, our CDL, and other projects. One of our latest, well, we've had multiple programs start at the same time, but welding fabrication has just been a remarkable program. We've done all the ornamental signs, and a lot of interesting work is coming out of that area. And then we also have our dental school there. We are doing dental assisting, which is the only one west of Whitwell. So we are fortunate to be able to offer that program and are doing really well with it. The repurposed facility is just beautiful, and I encourage you all to come down and visit with us and see what all is going on there. Okay, Jordan. Some of the ways that we do help our industry is that we do, again, that pre-employment and customized training. We've also recently been doing a lot of recruiting for companies, not only just from our students database, but just existing residents of the area. If they come in and are interested in a particular job with a company and they do not have the skill set, of course, we can train them. But if they have the skill set and we are able to recommend them on for employment, we've had a great deal of success with that. And these are just a few of the companies that we've worked with. Probably one of the most interesting training programs that we've had, the England Furniture that's in Lee County now, required us to teach sewing. Well, I can tell you that we had no one on staff who could sew to that extreme, but we were able to find an instructor, and that has been a remarkable program and a great success. Now, the only way that we've been able to do this is that we have a lot of partners. And Jordan, if you want to go on, we've got a lot of ongoing projects now. Right now, we are working on smart farming and agri-technology, utilizing drones and other automated technology to monitor crops and monitor cattle and just all kinds of things, and to help improve the agribusiness of this region. We have Project Thoroughbred, which is a grain management. We are partnering with several folks to do this project through funding of AML and others. That one will help us to operate a grain facility. The Project Amelioration, that's a hard word to say, so I call it the Grand Dam Project. We are working with ARC and some others, our partners in the Lenawisco District with the Wise County Drug Court and others, to do a recovery program and the rebuilding of the town of Appalachia. We have already renovated a couple of buildings there, and we'll continue to do that, and that's through our construction, carpentry, masonry, and plumbing programs. So we're really excited about that. We have a lot of cybersecurity and IT solutions projects ongoing, as well as an alternative energy and rare earth elements activity that's ramping up. And you'll hear more from that with Dr. Karmas, who we're partnering with on that particular aspect. Jordan? As a result of all this work, I can show you that we have continued to grow. Of course, our enrollment last year was impacted by COVID-19. However, even though our enrollment was down, if you'll see the black box on the side, we had our highest number of academic awards that were given out at graduation this year, and that was 872 for the year. We had a total of 2,486 credentials awarded that night. So that includes the over 1,600 industry credentials. the numbers there are down for the year because of COVID. However, if you'll, just the growth itself is remarkable. Our target for 2021, which was a statewide goal for us that was set by the Virginia Community College System, we were tasked with we had to triple our credentials in a certain time frame, where our target by 2021, we had to reach 1,908, and you'll see that we were well above that. And we were the only community college in the Virginia Community College System to achieve our goal. So I'm really proud of that one. Another reason that we are able to do that, though, Jordan, if you look at that last slide, is all of this funding. And we are blessed to have partners who, like VCTA and the Tobacco Commission and the Virginia Community College System. You can go on, Jordan, to the next slide. These are just a few of the funding sources that are available to students. So if a student wants to come to school or an individual wants to come to school, there's really no reason not to. If they're a Virginia resident, regardless of their income at this point, we have G3 funding that will pay for their tuition, and in some cases put money in hand to cover other expenses of attending college. So we're blessed to have that, and we're thankful. But we do this all for the betterment of the region and of our students. It's our mission. We're here to improve the workforce and make sure that there is a ready workforce for those industries that are interested in coming to the area. So we know that we need to do it. Our numbers show us that. We've got the funding to do it. We just need to get on board, everyone on board, and work together to make it happen. So if you have any other questions, I'll be happy to take those, or if you want to see me afterwards, I'll be happy to talk with you then. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vicki. Our next presenter tonight is Adam Wells from Appalachian Voices. He is the Regional Director of Community and Economic Development in the Norton office of Appalachian Voices. He's been with them since 2015, when he opened the Norton office and launched the New Economy program. We're very appreciative of his efforts, and we are appreciative of the fact that he's here tonight. So take it away, Adam.
Thanks, Mike. Hi, everyone. Good evening. Well, really appreciate the opportunity to speak to y'all tonight. Thanks to DMME for hosting this, and really appreciate everyone coming out. I'm excited to talk about a wide breadth of topics here and some really interesting, innovative projects. We at Appalachian Voices, a regional organization. Our office here in Southwest Virginia is in Norton, where most of our work focuses, but we also work in coalition with several other organizations across Central Appalachia. And what I'm going to start out tonight is talking about work that other partners in West Virginia and Ohio have been doing to try and bring some of their cool ideas here. And I will attempt to talk about mine land redevelopment, brownfields, and clean energy all at the same time. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so you can go next slide, please. So we do most of our mine land redevelopment or brownfield redevelopment is done in coalition through what we call the Reclaiming Appalachia Coalition. We do our work in Southwest Virginia. We work with Coalfield Development Corporation out of West Virginia and Rural Action out of Ohio, and with downstream strategies that provides technical support for the whole region. You go next slide. So this first project, next slide, please. Yep, thanks. The first project is in Southeast Ohio, and this is one that I love talking about. It's the True Town Pigments Project. So most folks are familiar with Orange Water. We've got that here. This is in Sunday Creek in Ohio. It's one of the most impacted acid mine drainage sites on the East Coast. What Rural Action has done in partnership with several folks in Central and Southeast Ohio is devised a physical means of separation from the water and the iron oxide in the acid mine drainage. They pull that iron oxide out of the water, clean water comes out the pipe on the other end, and they're left with that. The byproduct is that iron oxide or rust, and they make paint pigment out of it. Where they're at right now in the process is that paint pigment is used to make artist paint, so pretty pictures that go up on the wall. There is also a lot of applications for that. You can go to the next slide. In industrial uses, stain, and other household building materials as well. So this is a picture of, you can just kind of see there's those two tanks up there in the top. That's the physical separation. You can go to the next slide. It gives another perspective and some volunteers there. I want to talk about the funding for this project. At this point, it's got $7.5 million in total investments, and $3.5 million of that came from the Abandoned Mineland Pilot Program, which is now the Abandoned Mineland Economic Revitalization Program, as Mike mentioned. So Ohio gets a lot more funding than Virginia, and that's why they were able to dedicate $3.5 million from the pilot program to that. There's also, this is where the brownfields comes in, about $2 million of Ohio EPA brownfields funding that's gone to that, as well as a $1.5 million U.S. Department of Agriculture Rural Development, or USDA RD loan, and then about $500,000 in private philanthropy donations. So this is just a really cool project. I love talking about it. And it would be really neat if we could figure out a way to bring that over into Southwest Virginia. Next slide, please. All right, so this is the Appalachian Reuse Corridor, which links actually all of the states in the region. It started as a Appalachian Regional Commission power grant in West Virginia to the Coalfield Development Corporation. And they connected that with a U.S. EPA brownfield grant to set up a processing facility in an old building. So it was a blighted building that they transformed into a place to collect and recycle or upcycle landfill-bound material. So the idea here is that there's this corridor up and down Central Appalachia with nodes along the way with various different processing facilities. Here in Virginia, we applied with Wise County applied for a Abandoned Mineland Economic Redevelopment Grant, or AMRA grant, this past cycle to do a plastic shredding and pelletizing recycling center at the Wise County landfill. Those pellets would then be shipped to the Eastman chemical plant in Kingsport and then be recycled into plastic. So it's one way we're trying to bring that project down into Central Appalachia, or into Southwest Virginia, sorry. And then you can go to the next slide. Yeah, this is just I tried to stay away from words since it's after 5 o'clock, but this is just a list of all the different partners that are involved in the reuse corridor. You can go to the next slide. Yeah, so here's just an image from a facility that's trying to get up and going in Mingo County. This is also being run by Coalfield Development Corporation. They're focusing on electronics and other plastic recycling, and then also old mining equipment recycling. And the next slide that's the Wise County landfill. And an image of what could be the plastic shredder there, maybe not the exact model, but just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. And the Wise County Litter Control is really excited about, in Wise County, the way the opportunity to recycle plastic was lost a few years ago. And so bringing the plastic pelletizer back online would allow not just Wise County, but the surrounding counties to start up a new plastic recycling program. So the abandoned mineland nexus to this isn't as obvious as treating acid mine drainage. These facilities are located on former mine lands, and there could be some abandoned mineland redevelopment or cleanup that's associated with it. So that's kind of the AML nexus there. Next slide, please. So this is, again, coming back home to Southwest Virginia here. The Mineral Gap Data Center is where all three of those things combine: the abandoned mineland redevelopment, brownfields, and then renewable energy, which is where we're headed next. Most folks are familiar with the Mineral Gap Data Center up at the Lonesome Pine Industrial Park. In the 2019 pilot round, a grant was secured by the Wise County Industrial Development Authority to partially fund a 3 megawatt solar facility going in adjacent to the data center that would provide cost savings for the data center, and then generate about $1 million in taxes and lease revenue for the county over the life of that data center and the solar array. And so this is something that we're really trying to promote in the region. Data centers, as Mike was saying, is a broad-based economic development strategy, both powering them by solar as well as the underground mine pool, cooling and heating. And so we see, where we can site a data center on a mine, former mine land, power it by solar and cooled by geothermal. That's really the sweet spot and kind of the convergence of all three of those innovative concepts. So, happening here at Mineral Gap, and we hope to see that replicated across the region in the future. So next slide, we're going to switch gears and go all the way into solar now. So most of the work that we do around solar is done through the Solar Work Group of Southwest Virginia, which formed out of the 2016 Economic Forum hosted at the college. And there's a side breakout where there's a question of how could we use the development of a locally rooted solar industry in Southwest Virginia as an economic catalyst. And so the work group evolved out of that question. Next slide, please. So again, that question is, how do we use the development of solar as an economic catalyst? And that's part of creating jobs and creating economic opportunity, but also retaining that energy producing legacy in the region and just expanding what our ideas of being an energy producer is. So this gets us into two concepts I want to introduce tonight in my talk anyway, is energy equity and just transition. You can go to the next slide. Actually, stay on that slide, sorry. Just for a minute. So energy equity evaluates the affordability and accessibility of energy or clean energy in a given area, and it takes into account historic or current injustices or disadvantages for communities. And I'll touch back on this in a minute. And then just transition is the idea that as our country moves away from fossil fuels as our energy provider, that the communities and the workers that gave the most to power the country and to mine the coal or drill the gas should be among the first communities and workers to benefit from the new energy economy that's coming, and that won't happen on its own. We need to have deliberate interventions to make sure that communities like ours aren't left behind. So now you can go to the next slide, please. I want to give a shout out to the DMME. Actually, they have an Office of Energy Equity now that was just started. So our NCAC is working on that, which is really encouraging. So there's a couple of graphs here that really illustrate these points. This is solar jobs growing in the country from 2010 to 2020. And you can see there's a massive growth in these jobs. And so part of what we're trying to do with the Solar Work Group is make sure that that growth in economic opportunity and job creation, in part at least, comes to Southwest Virginia. You go to the next slide. So that's the jobs part. This is the other half of that economic benefit. And this is really just, this is kind of a pretend graph. It illustrates a potential example. But one of the things that solar can do is it can save money in energy bills. So that's the energy savings part. But another really important thing, especially at an institutional scale, when we talk about high schools or local governments, is it introduces the possibility anyway for stability of energy prices. When you buy a solar system, you're essentially prepaying for the next 30 years of your power, and therefore how much that power is going to cost. Whereas if you're just on the grid, you can be at the mercy of your utility and the volatility of energy market. So one of the big benefits of solar, especially at kind of an institutional level in Southwest Virginia, is it can provide that energy cost stability, which is really important for struggling institutions dealing with cash flow problems. So again, both of those concepts get back to that just transition and energy equity notions. Next slide, please. So how are we doing all that in real terms? These are the 4 goals of the Solar Work Group. And to summarize, we want to create jobs for local people, create training opportunities for students and workers. That's 1 and 2. 3 is to do education and outreach both at a local level for community members as well as elected officials. And then 4 is to make Southwest Virginia a more solar-friendly area in terms of state policy. So my next slides are really about solar implementation kind of at all scales. We're going to start at residential and go up to utility scale. Next slide, please. I was just kidding. The next slide is about the co-conveners of the solar work group. You can say there. So Appalachian Voice is a co-convener along with UVA Wise's Office of Economic Development and Engagement and People Incorporated. And then we have a steering committee that has Southern Environmental Law Center, the Nature Conservancy, DMME, Pale Blue Dot Consulting, and we have facilitation by dialogue and design. So that's the structure of the work group. Next slide, please. There's the pictures of the solar panels. So this is residential scale solar. And really what this does is it allows homeowners both to save money on their energy bills, but also provides that energy stability across time. When it comes to the per watt installed and jobs created, residential solar actually has the highest ratio of jobs created per watt installed. It also is the most inefficient to install because we're talking about lots of different small roofs. So we see this as a really great way that residents can gain the benefits of solar on top of the roofs. And this is one of our friends in Big Stone Gap who got solar recently. Next, please. Here's a photo of Ridgeview High School just up the road from where we are tonight. We've been working with the Dickinson County school board for several years now to try and get solar on Ridgeview High School. Just to give you an idea of the benefit there, about a megawatt size system on Ridgeview's roof could save over $1 million over the life of that system for the Dickinson County School Board. And that would be just to represent a huge energy savings for the school district. And not only that, but it would allow the students of Ridgeview to get up on the roof in a very safe way and learn about how solar is and this emerging energy technology. So there's both that energy savings as well as education opportunity there. Next slide. So that's the kind of the institutional scale solar. We kind of lump commercial and institutional scale solar together. Here's a small business. This is Ironworks Cycles down in Big Stone Gap. They might save a little bit of money over the lifespan of their system here. What they really want to do is have a roof that had solar on it to be, they're in a highly visible spot in downtown Big Stone Gap, and they wanted to be seen as a leader in clean energy. So they got a solar system and a new roof while they were doing it. Next slide. Okay, but what if you don't own your roof? And this is a big challenge for a lot of residents of Southwest Virginia, and where we work closely with People Incorporated. So community scale solar allows individuals that either don't own their roof, if they rent or live in a multifamily housing unit like People Incorporated. This is Norton Green, but they have a lot of them across the region. Or if you live up a holler where it's really shady, community solar could also be right for you. So this allows multiple families or dwelling units to combine in a single solar array. The challenge for us in Southwest Virginia is that currently, in order for, as People Incorporated as an example, each of their units of their apartments are individually metered. And in order for the solar system to work, there has to be one single meter that the solar panels feed. And in Southwest Virginia's utility territory right now, that's illegal. It happens to not be illegal in Dominion territory on the other side of the state. So that's a really good example of where we have an energy policy on one end of the state that allows solar, and energy policy on the other side of the state that disallows solar. And so that's something that we're trying to change with the solar work group. Next slide, please. And so finally, this is not a picture of solar on a former mine because I don't know where that's happening yet. But hopefully we're just a year or so away from being able to see that in Southwest Virginia. The Mineral Gap Data Center project is slated to go online and be installed later this year. So hopefully that will be the first one. There's also one that's gotten some attention up in Buchanan County that hopefully will go online soon. So it is happening. This is an area where DMME has provided a lot of assistance with some mapping tools and given a lot of assistance to solar developers and landowners. So I want to give them a shout out for their work there. Another really strong example that's been in the news lately is that the Nature Conservancy recently purchased about 250,000 acres in Central Appalachia of mostly formerly coal mine land, and they put out a request for bids to solar developers to do a co-development model to put solar on some of those acres that they own. So that's a pretty innovative model where nonprofit, the Nature Conservancy, now owns a bunch of land, and they're working with Sun Tribe Solar to try and install land where it is viable, working closely with DMME. One of the challenges with putting solar on mine land is it's more expensive to put solar on a former mine than it is to put solar on a cornfield or to cut down trees in Eastern Virginia and put a solar farm there. So something that we've been working on through the work group is called the Bright Fields Act, which would set up a state fund to provide an incentive to solar developers that would help offset those extra expenses of putting solar on mine land, and kind of bring it more to parity, where putting solar on mine land is about the same price as putting solar on a cornfield. So they got a lot of traction in the General Assembly last year, and hopefully, and actually did get passed, but it wasn't funded. So hopefully this coming session, we can figure out a way to fund that. I think that would really accelerate the pace of solar development on mine land in Southwest Virginia. Next slide. This will be the final slide. So we've been talking a lot about putting solar panels places, which is great, but that's not the only way to create jobs through the solar industry. So the work group has long had this interest in seeing what could we manufacture along the solar supply chain. We got a Go Virginia grant in 2019 that asked that question and explored, given the region's capabilities and our manufacturers and the state of the market, both in Virginia and across the country, what might be suitable to try and make in Southwest Virginia. The answer to that question, by and large, was batteries and energy storage. And so we're now moving that project into implementation in partnership with VCITA and GenEdge and the Cumberland Plateau Planning District, and working with these 4 companies here that are in Tazewell and Dickinson County, or Tazewell and Buchanan County, excuse me. Each of these 4 companies started out and still do serve the coal mining industry significantly, and have a strong tie to some type of process or a manufacturer, something that's connected to batteries or electrification. So we're providing technical assistance and expertise to these companies as they work to pivot or expand into more energy storage and electrification market sectors. So that's a project that just started this past year, and we look forward to seeing some results from that pretty soon. Next slide. All right, so I know I just hit a ton of topics, and these are some resources. Hopefully these slides will be shared, so some links that folks can follow if they want to learn more about that. And with that, I'll thank DMME again for hosting us, and thank you for having me.
All right, thank you very much, Adam. And again, we will be posting these presentations online over the course of the next few days. Our last presenter tonight, before we turn to public comment, is Dr. Michael Farmas from Virginia Tech. He is the Stoney Barker Professor at the Department of Mining and Minerals Engineering, and also the Director of the Virginia Center for Coal and Energy Research. Over the course of his career, he's won numerous awards and recognitions from major scientific and professional organizations. He's authored over 180 papers and directed 60 research projects. And he's going to be talking to us a little bit about one of the more recent projects tonight. Take it away, Dr. Farnas. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for the introduction, and my apologies that I'm not here I'm not with you in person. It was difficult, and to add more aggravation to the whole thing, our computers have been down for quite a while now, so I can't even use slides to show you. But if you bear with me, I will provide some comments, and then I will try to send some slides when we get back in action at Virginia Tech by sometime next week. So I must say that I'm a kind of a veteran of Virginia Tech with over 44 years, and I have spent numerous projects and time in the coalfields of Southwest Virginia. I think I understand and appreciate issues and opportunities in the region, and also projects that can be supported to help transitioning the region to a new economy. I have also been involved, and I mentioned the previous speaker mentioned the term just transition quite a bit. I have been involved with the World Bank on a number of projects that they have and the European Union, and the World Bank is the one who came up with the concept and perhaps some guidelines of what the just transition should look like. So this is something that was quite a bit of a learning experience. So what I will do today is I will talk about something more specific about technologies, technology development, and technology deployment. Now, if you think about it, let's say 30 years ago, we didn't have internet, we didn't have Wi-Fi, there was no autonomous cars, there were no drones, nothing. So what fueled the economy all this time is the development of new, innovative, transformational technologies. What it is my theme here and what I'm trying to push for a long time is to get engaged in the new technologies that will lead the new generation in becoming totally different, totally transformed, and totally diversified. So with that, let me make some points and provide some recommendations. When you talk about technology, you obviously talk about funding. And in this country, at least, we're very fortunate that there is significant government funding devoted to R&D. There is also private funding by companies and foundations. So there is quite a good base for funding. The problem that I have, and Virginia Tech has, and every university in Virginia has, as well as every company in Virginia who wants to get into R&D, is that there is not sufficient funding to cover what we call cost share. So basically, the sponsor of research will provide a portion of the requested budget. With the Department of Energy, usually is not more than 80%. And you have to show the remaining amount of the budget that you are covering it somehow with non-federal kind of sources. Now, that is the general rule, and in other states and in other places with whom we compete, there are significant programs and funds who can help provide that cost sharing to universities, to companies, to entities, to communities who want to participate in this business. So without having that cost share funding, we are basically at a disadvantage. And every project that I have, and have had plenty of them over the years, we compete nationally, not just with all the universities and companies, with research organizations and huge other entities who have thousands and thousands of employees, which we don't. So the ability to be able to, let's say, cover the cost share requirement of a project is for us a primary consideration, because at this point, we do not participate in competition for many projects because simply we cannot match that cost share. So that is something that everybody who is in the R&D business will tell you is of a great priority if we are talking about competing nationally for bringing technologies into fruition and hopefully locating them in Southwest Virginia. Next, I will talk about some specific projects that we have, that they have really significant opportunities to really transform the economy and the communities in Southwest Virginia that also require some additional support. You heard, I'm sure, before, and other speakers mentioned, and if you follow the news, the president very often refers to it, the need for having raw materials that we need not only for the green energy, which needs plenty, but also for batteries, for semiconductors, for your cell phones, for your cars, for your computers, for the defense industry. And unfortunately, those raw materials we need are currently mostly imported. You've heard about rare earth elements. You heard about critical minerals. All these elements, all these raw materials are what makes, let's say, a solar panel, what makes a battery, what makes a windmill, and they are really critical pieces of our infrastructure. Your phone and your computers are full of them. You all are familiar, for example, with lithium and all the batteries that we have. So while we are at a disadvantage and net importers of those minerals and raw materials, there are also some good news. We in the coal regions do have these critical minerals. Actually, we have already mined them, and we threw them in a waste pile. These are minerals who are part of the coal processing system, and because they are discarded, because they are not part of the coal, they're part of the other material which is with the coal when it is cleaned, they found themselves in waste piles and impoundments. In the oil and gas industry, you find them very much on wastewaters. You find them in acid mine drainage fuels and fluids. And finally, if you look at the power plants and the coal burning power plants, you find them on the fly ash and the coal combustion byproducts. We at Virginia Tech, as well as other universities in Appalachia and elsewhere through the country, have developed a program to try to recover these critical minerals to become available and help fuel our own sort of industrial and technology revolution, if you will. And at the same time, our aim is not just to recover, but also locate the downstream advanced manufacturing facilities that you need in order to use them in an application. Meaning it is okay to try to recover, I'll go back to lithium, but you need to treat that lithium in order to put it in a battery. So that is quite a significant sort of opportunity for us. And looking at waste streams also provides another benefit. It provides an opportunity to repurpose. It provides an opportunity to turn an environmental liability to an environmental asset. And it is something that we believe is going to make a big difference in the coal fields of Appalachia. Now, we have recently received a contract, a significant award by the Department of Energy. It's a program that we have named Evolve Central App. We are designated by the Department of Energy as the Central Appalachian, let's say, team to look at this particular opportunity. And our team includes, of course, all the Southwest Virginia coal fields, as well as East Kentucky, East Tennessee, and parts of Southern West Virginia. I'm pleased to say that we have many partners, both technical partners, educational partners, and economic development partners from the coal fields. And your first speaker and her community college at Mount Tempa has been a critical player for us to try to get the community colleges and the high school systems also involved in what we're trying to do. So I want you to keep an eye on that. It's a tremendous opportunity and something worth investing because we need to do much more testing. We need to do much more experiments to be able to develop and take a facility all the way to commercial deployment. The next technology that it is mature up to a point is something which is a critical technology for meeting climate change goals, and that this is carbon capture, utilization, and storage. Some of you know this. We have been doing carbon sequestration related work in the coal fields now for nearly 15 years. We have done a number of in situ tests. We have done tests in Buchanan County, in Wise County, in Dickinson County. We have explored all the options that we have in the coal fields to act as reservoirs for CO2 storage. And I want you to be aware that as you store the CO2, particularly if you use, let's say, gas wells, you also get enhanced gas recovery, which is also an additional opportunity as well. So with that, for us, this is a significant project. We're still looking for more and larger demonstration facilities. And let me also add to that, that beyond coal power stations, which was the original target of the CCUS, now we have the entire industrial sector, from gas plants to cement plants to refineries. They all need to resort to CCUS, or carbon capture, utilization, and storage. So that is also a significant development. These are technologies evolving all the time because we're able to do better capture of CO2 or better capture of other greenhouse gases, and we want to do it as cheaply as we can. And at the same time, we want to create more products using them. or store them safely in order to decarbonize the environment. So that is also a significant project that I would like to bring to your attention. Two other projects I will mention by name before I get to my last item is that we are very optimistic on opportunities with biofuels. This is also a high priority item for the current Department of Energy. We think the coal fields provide an opportunity, particularly the brine fields, in producing biocrops. There is now a new generation of such crops that they are quite remarkable of what they can do. Some of them actually can capture 4 times more CO2 than an equivalent acre of forest. They also can produce fuels, and that is something that I think could be a new industry that can be created in the coal fields. And we're also quite engaged on the question of geothermal, although I must say the geothermal gradient, as we call it, is not as high in our region, meaning how hot the bottom of the hole will become. But we are trying to develop what we call low temperature geothermal technologies, so that will help out quite significantly as well. The last item I wanted to bring up is something that we have already initiated in the first phase, which is an energy lab. This is a laboratory to try as a test bed and prove various technologies. So it is a proving really laboratory. It's not something that you do in your lab in a university or anything. And we see this not only as a research tool to prove the commercialization value of a technology, but also as a significant educational tool. In terms of R&D, as I said, the emphasis here is on pilot scale demonstration facilities, which can help to validate, improve technologies, and also lead them to commercial deployment. But I also would like you to pay attention on the educational emphasis that we have on that. I think if new technologies are going to be located in the region, we need to develop a new workforce. A new workforce cannot really come up out of nothing. New workforce starts with STEM education at much earlier stage. We believe this particular energy lab, by exhibiting things live, by providing opportunities for middle schools and high schools to get their hands wet, if you will, in dealing with experiments at large scale, will provide a stimulus for a young generation of people from the coal fields to be interested in STEM, to be interested in technology, to be interested in automation, in robotics, and all those things that are out there, and it will be part of what we have to face into the future. With that, I want to give you a very positive spin. I know Vicky's statistics earlier are quite a bit depressing and alarming, but I want to say to everybody that technology can provide significant impetus to the Southwest Virginia coalfields. We need to provide the skills that are necessary for creating the new workforce, and we need to stimulate not only with new technology, but with new STEM education. Otherwise, we'll not be able to have the workforce which can capitalize on all those opportunities. With that, I will stop here, and I reserve the opportunity to provide a write-up on this and some slides and put them up on the website for DMME, and I'll try to do it as soon as our computers get back into some better shape, hopefully by next week. And thank you for listening to me, and I'm sorry that I'm not there live with you at this meeting.
Good evening. I'm Tara Kesterson, the Public Relations Manager for the Virginia Department of Mines, Minerals, and Energy. We will now begin our public comment time, and just a couple of housekeeping notes. We do ask that you keep your comments to 3 minutes. And also, this alien-looking box here on our podium tonight is a microphone for our web viewers. So please be sensitive to that if you have some papers or you tend to fidget or talk with your hands like I do, because sometimes it might create a distracting sound to those listening in. So we'll have our speakers come up based on the order that you signed up, and I will call 3 names so you can be on deck if you're in the waiting line. And we'll begin tonight with Jonathan Belcher, followed by Donnie Rife, and then Gerald Gray. And I will apologize beforehand if what you have written down here is not exactly what I say. Sometimes my interpretation is a little off from other people's handwriting. Come on, John. Okay, following Gerald Gray will be Donald Purdy.
Thank you, Tara. I'd just like to provide a few brief comments about the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority. Again, my name is Jonathan Belcher. I'm the director of VCEDA, Regional Economic Development Agency that was established by the General Assembly in 1988 to enhance and diversify the economy of the Coalfield region. One of VCEDA's main funding sources was the coal tax credit, a portion of which had been allocated to VCEDA for regional economic development since the mid-1990s when the coal tax credit was first implemented. When House Bill 1899 and Senate Bill 1252, which Mike Skiffington alluded to, were passed this year, this eliminated that funding source for the region. This is going to have a serious detrimental effect on the region's economic development because there'll be significantly less money available to attract companies to the area and to help businesses that are in the area to grow and expand. And a little bit of legislative history, if I may, the original pre-filed versions of House Bill 1899 and Senate Bill 1252 actually did not contain the stakeholder process or anything about that. It just repealed the coal tax credit. And then I received a call from Delegate Hudson's office. She was the patron on the House side. And she expressed to me that they recognized that the bill was going to have the unintended effect of reducing VCEDA's funding for regional economic development, and that was not her intent. So there was another version filed, a draft version of the bill that actually had language that would have provided funding to VCEDA to replace what had been eliminated. However, it was determined for various technical reasons that version of the bill would not be best to put forth that session. And then ultimately the version that was adopted by the General Assembly, the substitute bill that contains the language authorizing the stakeholder process and these public hearings was one that was passed. So I relate that just to express VCEDA's role in that process and the coal tax credit and the importance that it had to the economic development of the area. So at the end of the day, economic development is about jobs, we feel, and VCEDA having less funding to create jobs in the area is not a good thing. Studies that have examined the totality of VCEDA's work have shown that VCEDA has been a very effective organization that has significantly helped the economy of the area. Some examples of projects just here in Dickinson County that would not likely have happened without VCEDA are the Dickinson County Technology Park, the Red Onion Industrial Park, the CERCO and SAIC centers at the Technology Park, the Dickinson Center for Education and Research, the Clintwood Sleep-In and Suites, the Ralph Stanley Museum, the Dickinson Community Hospital, the Spearhead Trails, and the list goes on and on. Many students attending Southwest Virginia and Mountain Empire Community Colleges have their tuition paid from funding provided by VCEDA, which came directly from the state coal tax credit. With the elimination of the coal tax credit, VCEDA soon will no longer be able to help pay for this college tuition. Another VCEDA program that may be on the chopping block because of the elimination of this funding source is VCEDA's Renewable Energy Fund, which helps attract solar and other renewable energy products to the region. One example of a renewable project that VCEDA helped attract to the region is the 800-acre solar farm on reclaimed surface mine land announced for Buchanan County earlier this year. So it is important that the state find ways to replenish this revenue stream to VCEDA so that we can help our economy to grow, train our workforce, and diversify. Lastly, I would like to mention a topic that has received little attention during this process, and that is the Coalfields Expressway. The state also needs to look at allocating some funding for the Coalfields Expressway. I've been an economic developer for 24 years, and I can assure you that as long as Dickinson County in particular lacks a decent 4-lane highway, the county is going to struggle economically. companies are hesitant to consider locations that lack good transportation access when there are thousands of other communities across the country vying for these projects that do have good transportation access. And until the Commonwealth does something about that, there is only so much the VCTA, your local industrial development authority, your local elected officials and others can do to bring industry to the area. We are all passionate about bringing jobs and improving the economy. I can assure you of this. But we need the Coalfields Expressway, or at least a 4-lane highway into Dickinson County to increase the county's chances of success. Regardless, I believe the county's and the region's best and brightest days are ahead of it, and VCTA remains committed to do our part towards that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan. And I failed to mention earlier, if you are unable to come to the stage, we will gladly accommodate you on the floor below. We do have some things set up here, so if it's possible, we prefer that. But again, we will accommodate your needs tonight to make sure we get you on the record as well. Next up, we have Gerald Gray, then followed by Donald Purdy, and then Jim Baldwin.
Get it to them as close as we can.
Okay. The cord there.
I talk pretty loud. I don't normally need a microphone.
You may not need it.
It's to Jared. There you go.
All right, thank you. I don't normally consider myself a disabled person, but I will note that there are no handrails on the stairs that go up to the stage here. That's a significant defect on the design and building in terms of wanting people to come up. I mean, in fact, that probably violates the building code. How many steps are there? Are there more than 2? Yes, it violates the building code. I hate to complain, but I really came here with a thought of talking about what I really think that we need in Dickinson County. And I had no idea what the presentation was going to be that we were going to listen to. And I do not mean to sound like a complainant, but I will note that we're in Dickinson County. Dickinson County was mentioned, I think, 3 times in all these presentations that we heard, all the projects that we heard. And I hate to sound once again like a complainant, but surely to goodness, we could have had one of these projects right here in Dickinson County. And I do not understand why we don't have one. Perhaps someone in the audience can explain that to me or to my friends here who are gathered to talk about re-energizing Southwest Virginia. But I will tell you that we here in Dickinson County have long been ignored. And an awful lot of us would like to see a project, not just one, but several, right here in Dickinson County. Now, I will tell you that I am not currently on any board or agency that serves Dickinson County. I previously served on the Industrial Development Authority. I remember observing in a public conference similar to this several years ago that as chairman of the Industrial Development Authority, I had the ability, I didn't have the ability, I really had nothing to do with it, but the Industrial Development Authority had the ability to bring in an employer who could employ 100 people at our Industrial Development Center in Clintwood, which was extremely exciting to me and the members of the Industrial Development Authority. Our problem was we could only produce 10 individuals who could pass a drug test. Now, I'm sorry, but that's the truth. That's precisely the problem that we face. So I would suggest that one of the things that we need to focus on for Dickinson County is to repurpose some of the buildings that we have. I appreciate the gentleman from Appalachian Voices who talked about repurposing buildings in other areas. I would suggest that we do have some school facilities, perhaps I'm thinking of Burns Elementary, even Clintwood Elementary. Buildings we could repurpose for a residential drug rehabilitation facility. We are desperately in need of such a facility. And I know that not only because I live here, but because I was a Commonwealth attorney here from 1984 to 1981, when we really had a very small drug problem. When I prosecuted a driving under the influence case with people driving under the influence of alcohol. Now, from 2012 to 2015, I served as an assistant Commonwealth attorney. And much to my surprise, the driving under the influence cases, 90% of them did not involve alcohol. They involved drugs. Thank you. I'm going to close it that way. What I believe we desperately need, besides the projects, we've got a lot of flat land we can put solar panels on, but we are desperately in need of a residential drug rehabilitation facility. Thank you.
We'll continue tonight with Donald, and I know I've messed up your last name, followed by Jim Baldwin and then Austin Counts.
Thank you very much. I'm Donald Purdy. I'm with the Appalachian Council for Innovation. You will probably know us better or formerly as the Southwest Virginia Technology Council. We went through a name change about 4 or 5 months ago because we have changed. Technology has altered and changed so much that our purpose needed to be rethought, and so we did. So one of our main goals is connecting businesses with each other. You may not be aware of this, but in southwestern Virginia, in the 13 counties that I speak of, there's over 20,000 businesses. It's hard to think about. And just imagine if 1,000 of those 20,000 decided to hire one person. That'd be a tough order to fill. But we can do it. We just got to figure out ways to get it done. And that's one of the projects that Appalachian Council for Innovation is working on. It's called inappalachia.com, and its purpose is to connect businesses with each other and organizations with businesses so that people can find what is actually in southwestern Virginia, because I'll assure you people in Lee County don't have a clue what's going on in Carroll and vice versa. And there's a lot in between. We just don't know. But we've got plenty of resources here. We just got to figure out how to get them connected and utilized. Another project that Appalachian Council for Innovation is doing it's called Starlink. And Starlink is low Earth orbit broadband, and it's an Elon Musk company. And we have just signed a contract with Starlink to provide broadband not only in Dickinson County, but in Tazewell, Wise, and Russell. And there'll be 60 accounts, and those accounts are for underserved or non-served school-age students. And the idea, of course, is for them to be able to get their work done remotely when that time comes up. Of course, obviously, the recent pandemic brought that to light more than ever. We have at present 45 accounts in Wise. We'll have another 300 by the end of middle of September, another 300 following that sometime right around the first of the year, and yet another 300 by the middle of 2022. So we're making great strides in that regard as well. And working with Starlink is a big deal because it is leading edge. It's still in beta tests, but to give you an idea how good this beta test is going, it's 300 megabytes download speed. 300. 20 up, 300 down. That's just amazing. So that's two of the projects we've got going on, and keeping in mind that Starlink is also going to be able to be utilized for telehealth and remote work. And that's a big deal for Dickinson County and all the other counties, because remote work is where we're going to be heading for in this region. And a lot of this efforts that I've talked about here as a result of VCEDA's help, quite frankly, because VCEDA has helped provide some of the funding to get the In Appalachia project going. It was instrumental and with some funding through the state to get us some money for the Starlink project as well. And I know VCEDA has helped many other businesses that I've been associated with in the past in funding, and we appreciate VCEDA for that. Their Seed Project program is really good. It gets people started. And most people in our region are resilient, strong, determined, as it was said earlier. Tell me I can't do it, and I will. All right, well, this is one of those things. Give me a little hand up and we'll figure out a way to make it work the rest of the way. And I'm a member of the Appalachian Council of Business Leaders as well, and that is to, we're an organization of business leaders that wants to help ourselves to do better, and we can do that through making connections with each other, and I thank you very much.
Next, we have Jim Baldwin, followed by Austin Counts, then Matthew Fields.
Thank you, and good evening. My name is Jim Baldwin. I'm Executive Director of the Cumberland Plateau Planning District Commission. I'm also on the VCEDA board as a result of that position. And I do think I bring a little bit of a unique perspective to the economic diversification efforts in our member localities of Buchanan, Dickinson, Russell, and Tazewell counties, and the role VCEDA has played in those efforts. In 1988, when VCEDA was established, I'd been at the Cumberland Plateau for 16 years. So I was looking with great interest on this effort to bring funding from the coal service tax back to the region for investment in economic diversification efforts. In the beginning, I don't think too many people know this, you probably know, Jonathan, but there was some discussion that the two PDCs in the coal fields, Cumberland Plateau and Wisco, would oversee this economic diversification program. Thank goodness, center heads prevailed. An authority was established, and that has led to a partnership between VCEDA, the Cumberland Plateau, Wisco, and the 7 counties of the coal fields in the city of Norton. Over the 33 years of that partnership, the PDCs have worked with their local government to complete hundreds of necessary water, sewer, site development, and other infrastructure projects that were prerequisites for economic development. And VCEDA supported many of those projects. Some of those, George's Fork Sewer Project, which serves Red Onion Industrial Park, the water and sewer extensions to Southern Gap, development of the Cumberland Plateau Regional Industrial Park, and the Bluestone Business Park in Tazewell County. While our focus was primarily on infrastructure and community development, such as downtown revitalization, VCEDA worked with our IDAs and others to recruit new industry and support existing industries, resulting in several thousand jobs created or retained in our district. I'd hate to think where we would be without that much work. Not that we don't have a lot of work left to do, but what has happened so far has been very helpful. Of note, though, is that VCEDA's flexibility to support a variety of quality of life projects, such as the Dickinson County Child Care Center, the renovation of the Russell Theater in downtown Lebanon, Sunnyside Lodging to support the Back of the Dragon initiative in Tazewell, and the Transportation and Logistics Center in Buchanan County, as well as the UVA-Wise Clinch River Ecological Education Center in St. Paul. All of those projects really support and underpin our other traditional economic development efforts. Another cooperative arrangement has developed over the years with our revolving loan fund program. It's rare that a new business or an existing business has a need that they've expressed to Jonathan, that he doesn't give us a call. And we try to coordinate our RLF program with the VCTA funding to help close some of those projects. Okay, wrap it up. Our broadband efforts wouldn't be possible. You've read lately about the large grant that was received. VCTA put $1 million in our original broadband project, 1.5 in our original wireless project. And without those projects wouldn't exist. We were one of the first rural regions in America to have 4G service. All of these projects, and dozens which we can't go into, show that VCTA's importance to our economic development efforts can't be overstated. And I look forward to, maybe not too many years for me personally, but to seeing the progress that is going to continue to be made in our region, because we work together. Thanks.
Thank you. And of course, you are welcome to email, mail, message. We have several ways that you could send your extended comments into the agency, or just send a copy of what you said tonight if you would like to do that as well. Next up, we have Austin Counts, followed by Matthew Fields, then Ronnie Hilton.
Hello, and I'd just like to thank you all for having me here today, as well as providing an opportunity for all our community members here to talk a little bit about this really important issue. As already mentioned, my name is Austin Counts. I work with Appalachian Voices in Norton, and I was the last graduating class of Irvington High School here in Norton, Dickinson County. I've been a lifelong resident of Southwest Virginia, and I'm also one of the many individuals that are looking to stay in the area. However, we cannot do that without support for a fair and equitable economic transition in the region. By supporting opportunities like renewable energy, like solar power, we can extend the potential for jobs in our region. So far this year, the Solar Energy Industry Association reported over 4,000 solar energy jobs in Virginia. However, with the Clean Economy Act, we can see as many as 29,000 in the future in Virginia alone. How many of those could be in Southwest Virginia if we just had the right support from the state? Solar energy could also invite new companies to the region and save our communities money to put towards food, education, infrastructure, and many of the other community needs that we find, but we often just don't have the funding for it. We also have to think a little bit about where all this new work or all this new infrastructure is going to go. We've already mentioned a little bit about abandoned mine lands here in the area. And this is an issue that we've faced for generations. And these lands that present hazards to our communities, businesses, and economic opportunities aren't going anywhere unless we do something about them. Cleaning up abandoned mine lands will create immediate jobs for our community members and provide new opportunities for land reuse in upcoming and existing industries. And even beyond abandoned mine lands or AML, the accessibility that our communities have to their own nearby lands has been severely limited. The excessive amount of lands that's owned by out-of-state landholders has been identified as a problem since the groundbreaking report, Who Owns Appalachia, released all the way back in 1983. We still need to begin addressing this issue to get the land back into the hands of the community and back to economic use. Even though I can't go too in depth into some of these other things, I really don't want to leave out things like increasing healthcare opportunities, especially to those affected by the mining industry through things like black lung and the opioid epidemic. Support for our education systems, for our basic family needs like child care, transportation, and the protection of some of our rarest economic resources, the things that we've all become accustomed to, some of us haven't yet. Things like clean water, abundant forests, and the diverse and healthy ecosystems that we hope to build an economy in the future. I'd like to end just by saying that this cannot be the last time that the Commonwealth reaches out to Southwest Virginia to see how our transition should or is taking place. We need to be a part of these decisions to make sure the support provided is really what our community needs. Without real community engagement, an equitable transition for the coal-impacted communities across Southwest Virginia cannot happen properly. Thank you again for your time, and I look forward to hearing from you all again in the future.
Next up is Matthew Fields, followed by Ronnie Hilton, and then Larry Mosley.
Good evening. My name is Matthew Fields. I am the Tourism and Marketing Director of Buchanan County, and I also do economic development as well. During my time in this position, I have seen what an impact VCA plays in economic development in this region. Some of the major projects we have going on in Buchanan County, especially Southern Gap, would not have been possible without VCA. These projects have all benefited from VCA programs such as the Coalfield Revolving Loan Fund, the Workforce Development and Training Fund, and the VCA Renewable Energy Fund, all of which are primarily funded by coal tax credit funds. The loss of funding for these programs will have an extremely detrimental effect on the future of economic development in our region. Yes, I believe that Southwest Virginia needs to diversify itself for a more sustainable and prosperous future, but taking away the very funding that has been responsible for so much economic development is an irresponsible move. It is paramount that in the Reenergize Southwest Virginia deliberations, these funds be replaced to the extent it is possible to continue economic development efforts and diversification in this region. Let us not turn our backs on an organization that has not turned its back on the people and organizations in this region. Thank you very much.
Next, we have Ronnie Hilton, followed by Larry Mosley, and then Delegate Monkman.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Ronnie Hilton, Chief Ranger for the Breaks Interstate Park. I am here this evening on behalf of the Breaks Interstate Park Commission to read a statement from Park Superintendent Austin Bradley. Austin couldn't be here tonight in attendance due to a previously scheduled engagement. However, when we learned that this session has implications for the future of the Virginia Coalfield Economic Development Authority, we thought it was important to have personal representation. The park's relationship with VCA spans decades and has produced some of the most significant infrastructure and programming developments which have occurred in its 67-year history. VCA issued funds have helped immensely with the development of outdoor adventure activities, including rock climbing, elk viewing tours, connectivity to ATV trails, completion of the park's zip line, and the construction of the water park. In addition, the funds have been used to improve, renovate, and construct a number of support facilities, including a renovation/roofing project of the Rhododendron Restaurant, construction of some of the nicest lakefront cabins that can be found anywhere in the region, new roofs on picnic shelters, new HVAC units for various facilities, and the list goes on. Anything that negatively impacts VCA is very concerning to our staff and commission members, as we rely heavily on the organization to make the interstate park model work. We are funded at only 1/3 of the level of a typical state park in Virginia and Kentucky. And the funds which have flowed to the park through VCA have been critical in helping us ensure that guests to our park have an experience that reflects positively on the entire region. Southwest Virginia is the area where many of us in attendance tonight choose to call home, raise our families, and make our livelihoods. It is not always easy to do it. It is not always easy to do here, as the area experiences many economic challenges of which we have all been keenly aware, but those of us who remain feel the positives outweigh the negatives. We are aware of the JLOC report that some have tried to weaponize against Basita, but those of us who live and work in Southwest Virginia realize that in this area, you often have to swing for the fences only to achieve a base hit. That is the nature of working in an economically challenged area. If progress came easy, there would be no need for entities like Basita to begin with. However one chooses to frame success, we are beginning to see progress in our little corner of the region. In 2018, we set a record for the most overnight lodging in the park's history. We are running around 20% ahead of those numbers thus far in 2021, making it likely that we will set another record here 3 years later. Our neighbors at Southern Gap Outdoor Adventures are reporting that they will set an all-time record for overnight lodging this year as well, doubling the numbers from their previous best year. Basita, the Breaks, Southern Gap, Spearhead Trails, and many other entities and individuals have been sowing into the tourism economy for years and are now just beginning to see a return on the significant investment which has been made. We humbly submit that an economy is not rebuilt overnight, and now it is not the time to impair or hinder the very entities which are making the transition possible. Thank you all for your time.
Next, we'll have Larry Mosley, followed by Delegate Montclair, and then Michael Hatfield.
Get me off here. My name's Larry Mosley. I'm currently the chairman of the board of VCTA. I've been very familiar with VCTA for many years, but within the last 5 years, I've really got an education about what all that they've done for our counties here in Southwest Virginia. And it's very disturbing that people in Richmond think we don't need that money. We live in a geographically disadvantaged area. And, you know, we want to keep the best and the brightest in our communities. That's what you build on. And, you know, everybody's not going to get a college degree. You got to have skilled labor, and VCTA has contributed much money to ensure that we get that skilled labor through our community colleges. It's been a struggle for all of us this last year, but even with COVID in 2020, VCTA reported by the authority in 2020, which are projected to create and retain 1,259 full-time jobs, 227 part-time jobs, and generate $237 million in private investment. Now, you know, these people say that this is not good economics for us to keep getting this money, but look what they're getting in return. You know, it's crazy that they would take that money from us. And if you, this board, if you put all the projects on here, if you wrote them down, this right here probably wouldn't hold what VCTA has done since it was created in 1988 for the counties of Southwest Virginia. Despite the pandemic, in 2020, VCTA approved 16 loans totaling $6.8 million and 37 grants totaling 3.76, a total of 53 loans and grants, and more than 10.5 million in new funding to create and retain those jobs just mentioned. And I appreciate our legislators here in Southwest Virginia and what they do for us. I'm just afraid we're outnumbered. And it's very important that, you know, the state, if they don't want to give us poll tax credits, then they need to come up with another way. They need to think what VCTA is also putting back into our economy and what they get out of it. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Delegate Montclair, followed by Michael Hatfield, then Starlin Kaiser.
I hate having my back to folks while I talk, so I may stand here to the side if that's all right. Good to see everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Delegate Wampler. I serve the 4th House District, which runs from Abingdon, Virginia, all the way here to Dickinson County. I've been elected since 2019. And getting in the General Assembly, you learn a lot of different things quickly. I think it's very telling that neither of the delegates that were responsible for House Bill 1899 or the Senate bill are here tonight to talk about the just transition. But nonetheless, we're here to discuss the future of the economy in Southwest Virginia. That's why I'm here. When we talk about the future of the industry, before we talk about the future, I think we have to talk about simply the dark ages. You look at opportunities for Dickinson County, for Southwest Virginia. Here in Dickinson County, 46% of the families that live here don't have internet connectivity at their home. How can we be expected to succeed in an increasingly technological environment, global economy, when our families can't send an email from home? It's a big issue. I think as a part of this process, I hope DMME and the partners that are participating will emphasize in our plan the need for broadband connectivity before we can launch into any other future economic development. I estimate it's probably a $500 to $800 billion problem for Southwest Virginia. And that, $6.5 billion in coal tax credit savings that this bill has generated, it's not going to touch that. But hopefully we will find additional investment in broadband. We have partners here. Jim Baldwin, who just spoke, is chiefly responsible for working with our service providers to expand the internet, and has done so along with VCTA. So we're very thankful for those partners. Looking toward the future, what can we do in Southwest Virginia? I think you saw the industry cluster chart. There was some concern and a little confusion about the industry cluster chart that was up here earlier. Try to break that down. This is the best way that economists can look at what we have and what is a potential for the future. I would tell you that the 3 industry clusters we need to focus on are what we're already strong in: agriculture and forestry. It's the chief industry for us. We need to continue to foster that. Secondly, energy. Southwest Virginia has long been an energy leader for the state of Virginia. The coal that comes out of the ground here powers the lights in Northern Virginia. It builds the skyscrapers in Northern Virginia. The steel that comes from it, it's an important asset. We've got to keep having it. However, certainly my position that when it comes to energy, it's not one or the other. It's not renewable and no coal. It's not coal and no renewable energy. To that end, Delegate Kilgore, myself, co-patron of House Bill 1925, would set up the Coalfield and Brownfield Renewable Energy Grant Fund. This is a placeholder for any federal pass-through dollars that can be used for solar development on old coal mine lands. We think that's a major opportunity for Southwest Virginia, and it would be a great thing if we had diversified energy production here in Southwest. So there's a current infrastructure package that's up for debate in the federal government. So far, we haven't seen anything to promote utility scale solar. There was some money in the proposal for battery storage and grid modernization and electric vehicles. But hopefully, if we can get some money for utility scale solar, we'll see some adoption on mine lands here in Dickinson, Buchanan, Tazewell, and Wise counties. Very much looking forward to that. I'll say, I know you got some more speakers to come. Community partners and what that looks like going forward. Got to compliment DMME first off. Usually when the government shows up, people run or they're worried about it. But DMME, their agency from top to bottom, leadership to the boots on the ground, they are community partners. They work with our economic developers, with our coal operators, with our energy operators, and they do a great job. So I'm glad that they're here tonight. When you look at who we have to work with, VCTA has long been a leader in economic development for Southwest Virginia. The Tobacco Commission, Go Virginia, Invest Southwest Virginia, our community colleges who are represented here tonight. Without all of those partners, we are going to suffer. And so I would encourage DMME and everyone in this process to not look at what you can take away, but look at what you can add for this region going forward. Thank you guys so much for your time. If there's anything I can do for you outside of being here tonight, please reach out to the office. We'd be happy to talk to you. Thank you. Grab my phone here.
Next, we all have Michael Hatfield, followed by Starla Kaiser, then Talbert Bolin.
Thank you. I'm Michael Hatfield. I am the county administrator in Wise County and the economic development director in Wise County. I'm here not for one agency, but I'm here for all the agencies. I know the importance of VCTA, what they're doing. I know the importance of Invest Southwest. I know the importance of DMME and what they're doing for economic development. And what we need to do as a region and with this is we need to push the state to not just fund one of these agencies. We need the state to fund all of these agencies and to fund them well. Not only the agencies, but our workforce development groups. Vicki brought up the Mountain Empire Community College Workforce Group. They do a fabulous job down there. There are other workforce agencies within our region that we need to support and provide money for. We have UVA Wise, and I know there was a lot of confusion over the money that was taken away and trying to give it to UVA Wise. But I think it's part of the answer, but it's not the complete solution. We have the workforce itself. We need some incentives in this area to get people to work. You saw the numbers of people who are non-workers. We need to get those people working again. The other issue that goes along with that in our region, particularly in Wise County, is housing. You know, we're trying to bring jobs into the area, and then we start looking at where are we going to house them. Those are other things that we need additional help on from the state on that we can get resolved. Jonathan mentioned the Coalfields Expressway. That would be huge for Dickinson County. It would be huge for Wise County. It would be huge for Buchanan County, for our entire region. And I'd like everybody to start looking at us as a region and not as Dickinson County, Wise County, Tazewell County, Buchanan County, Dickinson County. We've got to look at ourselves as a region, and if we don't stick together as that region and pull together and support all of the agencies that we have, then we are not going to succeed. The other thing that is the biggest issue besides housing is childcare. We need to work on that within our areas so that we can provide a facility so that people who want to work can go to work and have a place for their children to be taken care of. Thank you all very much.
Next, we'll have Starla Kaiser, followed by Talbert Bowling, and then Todd Ellswick.
Hi, everyone. I'm Starla Kaiser. I'm a physician born and raised here in Dickinson County. I actually practice just a couple minutes down the street. I'm also the CEO of a local company. It's a medical device company called Medentum Innovations. I've been heartened actually to hear some of the prior speakers and their support for VCTA. And I know maybe you're getting sick of it at this point, but I also wanted to, spend this time to endorse VCTA as a prior beneficiary of VCTA funds. So back in 2017, I had just moved back to the area. I had an idea for a medical clinic to serve primarily patients that did not have insurance before Medicaid expanded. And I presented the idea to VCTA, again, as a young entrepreneur that was not particularly well connected. And they believed in that idea. And with the help of VCTA and that funding, I was able to provide subsidized medical care to many, I would say hundreds of patients in Southwest Virginia, including many uninsured low-income patients in 2017, 2018, and then 2019. From 2019 to 2020, I guess, if you fast forward, I worked with some colleagues here in Dickinson County. So a couple of teachers and principals at Ridgeview High School, some former robotics students, and together we created a medical device prototype. We actually turned that into a company. We presented an idea to the Dickinson County IDA, and I see Mitzi here, and also VCITA for a study. And part of that study was to bring manufacturing presence back here in Dickinson County, in the county. And not only that, as part of this study, we wanted to work with local partners as part of our supply chain. We had a workforce development piece. We were wanting to hire local talent. And then I think the most exciting part for me is the product at the end of all this. Not only would we manufacture it, bring jobs, but the product could be a healthcare product that would actually serve Southwest Virginians. So it could ultimately have a huge impact also on health outcomes. So thankfully, they also believed in this project. And I think since that time and since their support, I've been contacted from multiple other healthcare companies wanting to come to Southwest Virginia, including one, I think, who's going to be putting a medical device kit manufacturing in Tasman County. To me, that's exciting. And I think these types of projects are innovative. We did see the prior presentation that healthcare, no matter what, is going to continue to be a high demand in this area. So I'm thankful again that a local community agency like VCITA believed in this vision and continue to support, again, local entrepreneurs, which I think is the bedrock of any healthy economy. So again, my understanding is that that project was at least partially funded with coal tax credit funds. I would hope that no matter what, the funding for VCITA would not decrease, would be replenished, if not increase. I think why not? I mean, again, this is an agency that has been in our region for decades now, has multiple community partners, like I said, not only in terms of attracting outside business, but also diversifying local business and the support of small businesses like myself. So thank you all very much.
Next, we have Howard Bowling, followed by Todd Elthwood, and then Kirsten Hobbs.
Good afternoon. I'm currently on the Clintwood Town Council. I have been for the past 14 years, and a previous chair of the IDA, and I see Mitzi and Jerry. VCITA has been so instrumental with funding projects, with the college, like they were talking about earlier. My wife recently went back to school and was able to get some of the workforce development money from that. And without that, it would have been a big struggle for us. But with that being said, we do need to try to keep the funding as level as possible for VCITA, because even with the other funding where Jim Baldwin was talking about, we've had some small businesses reap the benefits from these revolving loan funds. And like Scarlett was saying earlier, VCITA, they vet the projects, and they are the boots on the ground whenever you need a project. So whatever we can do to try to keep a level of funding, I think that is astronomical for the livelihood of Dickinson County. Our mayor sat on the board for many, many years and has helped every entity, every county in this area and the E region. So any support that we could get to keep the funding would be helpful. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Todd Elthwood, followed by Kirsten Hobbs, then Derek Nunley.
Well, good evening, folks. I represent 250 people. At 250 people, I call them my people. Those people are people who benefit from our businesses. And I also pray that through the efforts of VCITA and the help that they have given us, is that maybe we can employ at least 250 more. My father, Paul Ellswick, started our business, which is Paul's Fans. My father was born in 1940, and he established and started our business in 1958. If you do the math real quick, he was 18 years old when he did that. We've been in business now 63 years. And Visita was the very first organization that ever walked through my doors and asked, what can we do for you? What can we do for you, you Mr. Existing Business? IDAs, EDAs all over the nation, they look to recruit and find people from outside their regions to bring them in. How about the businesses that are already here? How about us established companies that have worked, that have paid taxes, that have paid in and have volunteered and supported our communities for years? We also look at things that, okay, so-and-so's doing good here and we want to go grab somebody else in a comparable business. And now that divides that workforce and is unable to even supply the people to take care of that. Currently, we are under construction in Buchanan County on 5 new buildings. These buildings will house my manufacturing facilities for ventilation fans and ventilation systems. And through these expansions, we have been able to venture into other industrial applications. We've started a brand new line, which is called Beast. That Beast is Best Equipment and Sport Trailers. So we're now manufacturing aluminum trailers, and we've got a series of people that we will be shipping these out of the counties to distributors that are already in place. Also, we are extremely thrilled that we have a brand new location. That brand new location is located in Lee County, Virginia. And we're just thrilled about that. We're actually working with Miss Vicki there, and I think there's going to be on the 14th of this month, next week, there's going to be some interviews. We're actually doing interviews to staff that facility, and again on the 28th. And a couple of more things is all these are fantastic things that are happening for me as a district, and they are certainly through the influence of Visita. 2016, our company barely escaped shutdown until we experienced a major upswing in coal production. At this point, we were vowed to expand and diversify, and so far we have done that. In a nutshell, you can't throw me off. In a nutshell, if it were not for the funding of Visita, we very well may have already been out of business. It is my opinion that this funding needs to continue and not jeopardize what would happen to, and the decrease that would happen into our community. Virginia does not stop at Roanoke. There is another region here that needs help and support. Thank you.
Next, we'll have Kirsten Hobbs, and Garrett Nunley will wrap us up for the evening.
Hello, I'm actually Garrett. Pearson is taking a moment to prepare his comments. The first thing I really wanted to talk about tonight is the fact that this listening session was more talking than listening. We shouldn't have to listen to an hour and 30 minutes of workforce statistics that we've already heard before public comment section. That's not helpful, and that's not respectful of the time of the working people of this county. So I just wanted to begin with that. Secondly, I wanted to talk from my own personal perspective. Well, actually, I have a few more process concerns before I even get there, because a 3 or 4 month timeline is not enough to meaningfully engage our communities and meaningfully build a platform for economic development. Secondly, I'm really concerned about the lack of stakeholder engagement that the DMME has done. Yesterday, I spoke with my friend who is on the Virginia Council for Environmental Justice, who is, according to the statute enabling this process, supposed to be consulted. Throughout this process, there was no consultation with the Virginia Council for Environmental Justice, as far as my friend was aware, who sits on the council. But I digress. Today, I wanted to talk about my perspective as a young person who I work remotely in the nonprofit sector. We talk a lot about attracting and retaining young people. We talk a lot about attracting and retaining remote workers. So I was going to read from a list of suggestions of what I believe would be meaningful investments into the infrastructure of our communities that would incentivize me being able to stay and live and work in this community. First of all, I think we need to invest in direct environmental remediation, including modeland reclamation, reforestation, and stream reclamation. Secondly, we need to invest in adequate and affordable housing for our communities. Thirdly, we need to invest in community infrastructure, including sidewalks, parks, public spaces. We need to focus on building walkable downtowns and incentivizing public-facing businesses to occupy our Main Street properties. And we need to crack down on vacant landowners, both in our downtowns and in larger landholding cases. We need to invest in bringing high-quality medical care to our communities. We need to invest in public land ownership, and we need to invest in educational and technical training. And we need to really work on capitalizing our partnerships with our state and we need to work on capitalizing partnerships with our world-class universities like the University of Virginia and Virginia Tech. We need to attract those universities to partner with local educational and workforce development organizations. Let's see. I made a list, I'm sorry. That's my list, but thank you.
Mr. Hobbs, if you would like to come wrap it up.
Good comment. Yeah, I'm Kirsten Hobbs. I'm from Dickinson County originally. Used to work for the town of Clintwood. Used to work in this building actually. And now I'm an artist and I'm a young person who's trying to stay here in the region. And it's quite hard to do that. It's quite hard to make a living here if you're a young person. And it's hard to see everything that's happening around you that that seems to be counterproductive. And I think that the development of office parks and industrial sites without prospective quality tenants has amounted to a colossal waste of government expenditure, as dozens of these sites sit empty across the region. Capital investments to small business owners through VCITA without adequate planning and support, which has resulted in state funds being invested into small businesses which ultimately fail, and prioritizing individuals with outside capital for business lending and investment creates barriers to access capital, especially for entrepreneurs and marginalized communities. Tax credits that incentivize corporate entities and moneyed interests to profit from our communities without investing in public infrastructure, and ineffective tourism marketing agencies that's funded with coal money, such as the Heart of Appalachia, the Southwest Virginia Cultural Heritage Foundation, and they fail to incentivize tourism here. They're doing the bare minimum, and we're not proud of it. And I think that there could be a lot of things that could be done better. That's all I have to say.
One more. I'm gonna wrap this up. So thank you all. I didn't get a chance to sign up earlier, but I'm Larry Martin, County Administrator here in Dickinson. Kind of new to this role, only been in the role about 6 months, but what time I've been here, we've worked very closely with Jonathan. We've got a lot of projects that we've had going on since I've been here. Every one of those projects have been involved with Visita. They've been a major player in this. They're vital to our county. As it was said before, as Jonathan said before, Dickinson is really lacking when it comes to the local Coalfield counties. We do not have any 4-lane highways. The Coalfield Expressway would mean everything to us to get that, or even a 4-lane highway, because that's one of the major roadblocks we have. Every time we get a prospect, anything of any size, anything manufacturing related, it comes down to that stretch of highway between the 4-lane and Pound to get into Dickinson County. That's a major need for us. We're looking at a lot of different things. I think the alternative energy is good, the solar. We have a lot of abandoned mine lands, a lot of stuff we're working. That would be great places for solar. We are at advantage. The city just helped us acquire some industrial lots that we're working on. We're looking at some prospects for those. Just the whole region, everybody's been great to work with. Cumberland Plateau, GM, just all these different agencies, DMME, DHCD, everybody. But Visita, I just wanted to speak on their behalf. Losing these credits would be huge to Dickinson County, to the residents of the county. There's been a lot of small businesses that's been helped, startups, existing businesses. We're very grateful for everything you do, and we're in support. So thank you.
We'd like to thank everyone for being here tonight. Surely we take these comments seriously. We encourage those of you who spoke here this evening to send written comments to us through either the numerous ways that we've set up to receive those comments, so that we can be sure that we've captured them accurately when it comes time to draft the report. We'd definitely be remiss if we did not thank our wonderful hosts, Dora and Sean and London, for all of their help here this evening. And we all got lots of snacks and popcorn and sodas. Would also like to thank our speakers for taking their time to present and share their information with us. My DMME colleagues and my policy colleague at the policy mothership back in Richmond, Jordan Burns, pulling the strings behind the scenes to make this event go off mostly flawlessly. So thank him for that. We will have the draft report due, like I said earlier, September 1. That date is mandated by the General Assembly. We will be receiving public comment through the end of October, so that everyone will have the opportunity to weigh in on their comments with respect to the draft report, and the final report is due December 1. Thanks everyone for coming. Drive home safely, and we'll talk soon.